Well, I ended the lunchtime show. Let's see if KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant are still batting at tea. Guess what? They are. What's going on at the Oval? Partnership of 177 is breaking all sorts of records. It's come in ridiculous time. 230 balls. We've just seen a middle session on the 5th day of this Oval Test match. That's gone for 131 runs in 30 overs. On ESPN Cricket for Matchday. To try and discuss the absurdity of this day, Ajit Agarkar and Toby Rowland-Jones. What's going on?
Two attacking batsmen, you've sort of given, I think England took their foot off a little bit after lunch, almost expected a wicket to fall. Both their spinners have not looked, the pitch is pretty flat, but these two batsmen have batted well. I mean, Rishabh Pant, especially first time you're on 95 in a test career, you just, put your foot down the pitch and just whack it into the stands. Incredible. I mean, you've got to have a lot of guts to play that, that shot. Maybe fearlessness of youth, but India's 166 away. You can always dream. Funny things happen in this game.
My God, yeah.
And England suddenly realised, and that's why Anderson's come back in the spell. So, yeah, but brilliant session for India.
We spoke, Toby, in the morning that yes, it is a bit slow, but is there absolutely nothing happening that England must simply wait for things to happen? Have they been guilty of taking things too easy today?
I mean, we did speak about the pitch being slow, but I think there's still been opportunities to create chances. I think we've also seen two batsmen who, in their attacking nature, have not really allowed any bowlers to settle or to find a rhythm, particularly the spin. They've looked to be pretty positive throughout. And I think personally on a pitch like this, that's key, because whilst there are some rough patches and a little bit of turn there, it is a slow pitch in its nature, and if you can use the crease well and look to upset the rhythm of a bowler, then you make life a lot easier for yourself, and I think these two have done that to perfection. And maybe having the shackles released and it being a bit of a free hit, both of them have found a way of really playing with a lot of freedom and showing off some real sort of free stroke play, and almost made life extra tough for the England bowlers.
I mean, not only the spinners, they seem to be getting runs at will, even off the seamers. Field placings that you question?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben Stokes went for the short ball sort of attack again. The ball's pretty soft, and Rishabh Pant played him really well. I mean, every time it was a little bit short and bounced extra, he's left it. Others, he's controlled it well. Again, the pace of the pitch has dictated it as well, but it can't take anything away from some exceptional batting. I think the spinners, in my opinion, have not bowled as well as they could have. And once these two have taken the attack to them and put them under a little bit of pressure, they've bowled a few more loose balls. So every bit of credit to the Indian batsmen in this session.
Gee, what an innings for Rishabh Pant.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good in that first test innings of his, and then he's had a couple of poor sort of loose shots outside off stump. Ideal sort of situation to come in, where there's a batsman set at the other end, the ball's a little bit older. We know he likes playing his shots, but he's a serious talent. I think Indian cricket hopefully looks after him, because this is what he can do. Turn games in a session. And although there's a lot of runs left still, there might be other occasions when India's chasing fewer than 464, where he could be the difference in the game. Because he plays pace and spin both reasonably well, it's a huge advantage to have if he keeps growing as a player.
I mean, I know, Toby, you can say to some degree that there hasn't been pressure and they could just have a free hit all sorts, but for a man who's effectively playing for his place, could very well be dropped from the next side. He's not the first choice keeper. This is a big innings, personally, you think, for a young wicketkeeper batsman?
Definitely. I still think, whilst you could talk about having the freedom, like you mentioned, there's your own pressures from within, knowing that you want to get a score to try and cement your place. And yeah, he's shown that maybe going forward, when he plays his natural game and tries to put a little bit of pressure back, he's very good, but also just finding the right measure for it. But he's certainly someone who you could see at times when Stokes tried to take the aggressive route, he sort of matched that and went straight back at him with his own array of shots, and that's certainly made life tougher for England. And there are a lot of boundaries in that session where England didn't seem to be able to cover both sides of the wicket, and certainly, you know, with both these guys, the right left-hand combo, they've made the England bowlers really toil in that session.
I mean, it's also, Toby might be able to answer it better. Also, the sameness of this England attack a little bit. I mean, there's one thing that everyone's noticed it during this series is Indian bowlers have had more speed than the English bowlers, I think. And when it doesn't swing, Anderson still come and bowled a great spell right now. This 3, 4 or 5 over spell where he's given nothing to Rahul. But everyone else, if it doesn't swing, do they need to find that little bit of X factor? I think the commentator spoke about it.
Yes,
and Nasir Hussain brought it up.
Yeah.
And it's probably true on surfaces like this where there's nothing happening suddenly. Where's your next wicket, or where are two guys who are going to sort of create pressure coming from? I know it's the last day of the last test with the series gone, but I'm sure there's a little bit of thought to be given for this England attack.
Yeah, we must make a point that Stuart Broad, like Ishant Sharma, also has picked up an injury and hasn't quite been able to bowl as much. But yes, Toby, you can make a response, have a response to that. Criticism from Ajit and also from Nasir Hussain on commentary that when things aren't happening, there is a one-dimensional nature to this England attack, which sometimes can lead to situations like what we've seen today.
Certainly, I think this England attack is often praised for how good it is in its own conditions, and rightly so. And obviously adding Sam Curran added a different dimension, and having the leg spin and the off spin. But you would say the only thing missing, if you like, from this attack is someone who can bowl close to and upwards of 90 miles an hour. And it's not always the easiest position to fill. It's a tough role for anyone, and English conditions don't always suit that style of bowler. But certainly you see on tracks like this, to have someone who can run in on a flatter wicket with a softer ball and still make something happen. And you can argue that Ben Stokes, when fully fit, can get upwards of 85 mile an hour and bowl pretty quick, but perhaps in his current state and having to manage his knee a little bit, he couldn't quite hit the heights that he has done in the past pace-wise.
What were you clicking before the unfortunate double stress fracture, Toby? I'm sure that you'll solve some of those problems.
I don't know about any of the pace problems. Yeah, I'm lucky if I touch 83 miles an hour, to be honest. But
all right, well, we'll have that chat further, because I don't know, do you entertain the thought that we could see something special in this final session of play of this test series? Well, it's less, it's not like they've got 200, they've got what, 150, 160 to get. We'll have that chat with Ajit and Toby. There's also the new ball to come. It'll be a fun chat looking ahead to the final session on ESPN Cricket for Matchday. Stay with us.
Catch the best of the England-India series on ESPN Cricinfo. Match highlights, clips.
Okay, it all comes down to this in this test match. Let's forget the series scoreline. Let's try and make this an interesting session where there suddenly seems to be the possibility of a result India's way. 32 overs minimum, which I'm sure England will take their time in bowling. 166 to get, which means they still need to go at over 5 and over. It is a daunting task. But let's assume, given what we've seen in that session, that there is even the most remote possibility. How would you go about it if you're the Indian batsman? Just continue doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to make it interesting. I think Pant and Rahul are making it interesting. I'm sure that's what made Root get Jimmy Anderson back and himself bowl round the stump at one point. Yeah, the new ball is due, so we don't quite know whether Stuart Broad's fit enough.
Yes.
He was feeling his side. but maybe Sam Curran or the advantage that England have is they only need one wicket. I know Jadeja can bat or hit.
He's India's best batsman in the first innings.
Yeah, but to come in again as a new batter, it's a tough ask. You never say never. India's at least put themselves in a position where two of these guys bat till the end.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it is a huge task. I mean, sometimes we don't realize 5 runs in Test cricket where you can put the field back is not the easiest thing to do with decent bowlers in the opposition. But two batters going crazy where they can deposit the ball over the stands or over the boundary, it's quite possible.
Given the slowness that we've discussed, Toby, but there's been some cloud cover through the day, how much of a difference will this second new ball make?
I think certainly it would hopefully add a fraction of zip for those seamers coming back. I don't think it's going to do anything like we saw in the first 2 innings in particular, but I think the England seamers will feel like if they can bring in any edges that they'll certainly carry. Whilst the Indian batsmen also against the English seamers might feel like the ball comes on a fraction better and that they can hit through the line, so it might actually make it a better contest. It looked at times like, that wicket-to-wicket nature of the old ball just slowed things down a little bit towards the end there, so it'll be interesting certainly to see if that comes in, and like Ajit said, one wicket here can change the complexion, and at the same time if these two get back in and score the way they were, then perhaps they'll dare to think that they could achieve something pretty remarkable.
I mean, speaking of how much this day was predominantly going to be about how much individuals make of it, we've not even mentioned KL Rahul after lunch, who's quietly just going on. Pant has overshadowed him in that session, but a double 100 or a big 100 is obviously going to stay in memory regardless of the situation.
Yeah, and he's played beautifully. I think he's realized Pant is the aggressor in that session. He's hit a boundary every now and then, but he's carried on, just rotating the strike. Played Anderson really well in that spell. And that's what smart players do. You can now you put. I mean, 140 is a huge score anyway, but you're in that position where you can see the ball really well. The conditions are in your favor at this point. Why do anything silly? So he's just played the merit of the ball and let Rishabh Pant kind of play his own game. It's really good cricket from Rahul in this session.
While we speak of individuals, Toby, from England's point of view, when you've got your bowlers out, we said India would rely on their spinners. You said at lunch you like the idea of Adil Rashid as an attacking leg spinner in the Test 11. Given all that's happened with his selection at the start of the series, how vastly underutilised he's been, did you expect it that this session, where essentially he's got to do something, inflict some damage, would you have liked him to do a bit more?
Yeah, I think we saw almost the classic conundrum in knowing that, these two guys at the crease showed that the Indian batsmen do play spin so well that you wonder whether there's sort of an element of not wanting to throw him in too much. But certainly, I mean, particularly I thought Rahul played the spin unbelievably well. So yeah, it's an interesting one to have him there as an option on a turning wicket and to not really turn to him too often and in shorter spells. On the flip side, it tells Rashid that there's not loads of patience there for him. But that's as we mentioned, England having a 6-man attack. Maybe Joe just feels like he wants to try and utilise all his options and he can dip in and out of different options when he can and see what can happen.
You sometimes lose a little bit of confidence if your captain doesn't use you like a frontline bowler?
Absolutely. I think you've been picked as a bowler in the team and you're almost the 5th choice really in that attack, and that too on a 5th-day pitch. So yeah, look, it's difficult bowling to these two guys, but still I don't think he bowls aggressively enough. Leg spinners are going to go for runs. It's the wickets or the chances that they create makes a difference usually in the games, and I don't think he's been aggressive enough to get wickets, especially when your team scored 464. I think you've got to bowl a little bit differently, even if you go for a few runs.
I mean, but for those last couple of overs, Joe Root would have bowled more than him in that session. It's not a great sign to have.
No, not at all. I mean, not on a 5th-day pitch, and I'm not saying it's a rank turner or anything, but there is enough help where good leg spinners will create enough chances.
Very well. All I want to ask you now is what's going to happen in this session. Just give me, I never ask for predictions in Test cricket, but I leave it to one session. I'll start with you, Toby. Draw England to knock it off and, just make it a bit of an anticlimax, or India to pull off the unthinkable?
I err on the side of a draw. I think the way these two have played, if I was them, I wouldn't want to be giving it away. They can leave this tour with a pretty remarkable feat in batting out the day. So, yeah, I think these two will hang on in there for long enough, and India will draw.
All right, Ajit,
I think it's going to rain.
So you're going for a terrible anticlimax in a draw, but no, you're going for the draw then? Or England to knock these wickets off?
Yeah, I think at this point these two have done all the hard work. Hopefully it's a draw for India.
Excellent.
They deserve it.
Let's throw in a win, one way or the other. I don't know which way it's going to happen. We'll talk about it and review the series on the post show. So join us for ESPN Cricket for Matchday.